Thank you. When I was little, I could not understand the concept that you could only live one life. And I don't mean this metaphorically. I mean, I literally thought that I was going to get to do everything there was to do and be everything there was to be. It was only a matter of time. And there was no limitation based on age or gender or race or even appropriate time period. I was sure that I was going to actually experience what it felt like to be a leader of the civil rights movement, or a 10-year-old boy living on a farm during the Dust Bowl, or an emperor of the Tang Dynasty in China. My mom says that when people asked me what I wanted to be when I grew up, my typical response was princess, ballerina, astronaut. And what she doesn't understand is that I wasn't trying to invent some combined super profession. I was listing things I thought I was going to get to be: a princess and a ballerina and an astronaut. And I'm pretty sure the list probably went on from there. I usually just got cut off. It was never a question of if I was going to get to do something so much as a question of when. And I was sure that if I was going to do everything, then it probably meant I had to move pretty quickly, because there was a lot of stuff I needed to do. So my life was constantly in a state of rushing. I was always scared that I was falling behind. And since I grew up in New York City, as far as I could tell, rushing was pretty normal. But as I grew up, I had this sinking realization that I wasn't going to get to live any more than one life. I only knew what it felt like to be a teenage girl in New York City, not a teenage boy in New Zealand, not a prom queen in Kansas. I only got to see through my lens. And it was around this time that I became obsessed with stories, because it was through stories that I was able to see through someone else's lens, however briefly or imperfectly. And I started craving hearing other people's experiences, because I was so jealous that there were entire lives that I was never going to get to live, and I wanted to hear about everything that I was missing. And by transitive property, I realized that some people were never going to get to experience what it felt like to be a teenage girl in New York City, which meant that they weren't going to know what the subway ride after your first kiss feels like, or how quiet it gets when it snows. And I wanted them to know. I wanted to tell them. And this became the focus of my obsession. I busied myself telling stories and sharing stories and collecting them. And it's not until recently that I realized that I can't always rush poetry.